I I've thought about the Vietnam vibe a lot, and I read the. It's funny that the chap who wrote People of the Lie, M. Scott Peck, his first book was The Road Less Traveled, which comes from a poem.
Right, Robert
But
Frost.
he was a psychiatrist appointed to do a big study of the Vietnam War, especially that one atrocity by the American soldiers in the village, which was kept quite quiet and stuff. And so,
Oh yes,
but he said the turning point in USA and the Vietnam War was they'd run out of volunteer soldiers, and so they needed to have conscription. And it's when suddenly you're sending your kid to they're
to die on the other
they're
side
gonna
of the
die.
world,
They're
and some
most likely gonna die or get injured and blown up, and it's gonna be horrific. Then society got involved, but until then, they weren't really interested at all because there's no stake in the game, and this is why that author M. Scott Peck agrees with conscription, because then there's families have stake in the game, and the voices of
that's what they
citizenry
said
go,
about the world wars.
whoa,
isn't
whoa,
it?
whoa, whoa.
I mean, they did eventually conscript people for the world wars, and yet people went. There wasn't this large fight against it. People went and they did it because the cause itself was seen as being just.
Yeah, maybe Hitler and the Nazis was a very obvious enemy, but suddenly the North Vietnamese who are being helped by communists is not such an obvious enemy, and maybe they're tired
and they're
of war.
literally on the other side of the world, and
yeah. So that whole period is more and more fascinating for me, even though Hollywood and American media has sort of spoken about it to death. I guess I'm finding it fascinating because I think I'm switching sides.
Are you now North Korean?
Yeah,
is that why the beret finally?
I was all sort of gung ho, like no, we fight the enemy, and you must go and fight. But I'm now seeing that it's not nice to die and stuff.
I mean, I'm hoping that your
nice
this
to
has been
die.
a very long talk about the war and about these things, but I'm hoping that the poem fact that you're about to do is related to this. Is that right?
Not necessarily.
Not at all. That was just some crazy talk in the middle.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I think what I'll do a little bit, which is lovely, is I'm gonna go a little bit proudly South African man.
Okay.
And I got to tell you, in matric, our set work poems, this is controversial if you're listening, Mrs. de Villiers. She was our English teacher.
Okay. Your English teacher was called Mrs. de Villiers.
Mrs. de Villiers.
I mean, that's
she's
like
my Facebook friend. Be careful what you say.
No. That's like your Zulu teacher is called Mrs. Jones.
Oh yes, I see what you're saying. Mr. Diaga was our Afrikaans teacher.
Mrs. Diaga was my music teacher.
Really?
Oh, unbelievable! Yeah.
How did
she really got around?
How did she
anyway,
do both? No, Mr. Diaga.
Mr. Diaga.
But I wasn't. The only English poem I can remember from our set work was the Jaguar, and it wasn't particularly. It was just about a frustrated jaguar that shouldn't be caged. But the Afrikaans poems, for some reason, were glorious. I don't know why.
Because they knew that after matric you were never going to study Afrikaans again. They knew it.
Yes, and but listen to Winternacht by Breitenbach. Is it oor? Oh. Ja, I don't know if it's oor.
Sê oor.
Oor koud is die windjie en skraal en blink in die doflig en kaal, so wyd soos die Here se genade, lê die velde in sterlig en skade, en hoog in die rande versprei in die brande, is die grassaad aan roere soos vinkende hande. O treurig die wysie op die ooswind se maat, soos die lied van 'n meisie in haar liefde verlaat. In elk grashalm se vou blink 'n druppel van dou, en vinnig verbleek dit tot ryp in die kou. I don't even know what that means, that last bit, but it's beautiful. That's Breitenbach. That's beautiful.
I don't understand parents who name their children. Like my surname is Robertson. I would never name my son Robert. Like Robert Robertson would be a crime against humanity. Breitenbach
is important that
you're
they
making
keep the family name.
Yeah, but it's like that
there
old
are some
TV
Afrikaans oaks whose surnames are. I know an Afrikaans guy. His first name is Du Toit.
Okay.
What if
so he's
but
what's his surname? Oh, Du Toit. He's Du Toit de Villiers.
I'm not sure what his surname is, but his first name is
I mean, if it's Du Toit, it's problematic. That's where I'm going with this. Do you remember the old Mnet presenter Scott? Like who? What
I don't know what his parents were thinking.
The second a parent comes to you as a nurse with the birth certificate form and they filled in Scott. You should erase it and you should put a real name
It's
there.
no time to take the piss.
It's no
time to tell jokes, you
that's
know.
Right. Those parents have forfeited their right to name their own child. That's not correct. That's not. Delete Brayton and put down Steve. You know, like if he'd been Liam Breitenbach, nobody would have said a thing. But here I am, like 100 years later, making fun of him because his parents are assholes. It's not his fault. It's not his fault.
It's like my dad. He's like in Vereniging. There was we lived next to the Down family. Of course, there was Ben.
Yeah.
Neil
and Ida.
And Ida. But
my parents told me that when I was about 6 years old.
Really?
That exact joke.
That they lived next to the Down
I
family.
believed it for years. I thought it was real.
Our generation could hold on to jokes.
No, but I thought they were telling me a true story. I didn't realize that they were joking with me. Just like when they said that they'd taken my dog to a farm. Do you know that I was 25 before I worked out it hadn't gone to a farm? Do you know that, Ryan?
Why did you say? Why did you take it to a farm?
No, they told me it was an idyllic farm and he could run and play with sheep and ducks and stuff. So I was like, oh, it's better for him rather than our complex. That's nicer. And I believed it until I was 25, Ryan. I consider myself a somewhat functional human being. And I never questioned my parents. And just like the Neil and Ida Down story, I never questioned my parents. I just believed them.
My mother was a fantastic liar. She's brilliant.
I mean, you've got a talent because I've fallen for it 3 times.
Yeah, I mean, I got to we were having this conversation at second break in primary school. I was about 9 or 8. I can't remember. And we're having the talk about, Father Christmas is not true. And the guy was like, no, I think it is. No, it's not. Then I said, I know for sure that Father Christmas that might not be true. But the tooth mouse is absolute. No, it was a mouse.
Oh, was it a mouse?
Mouse in my house.
Because if we can put a 6 age restriction on this so my son can't listen to it.
Yes. Yeah. So my mother said that the tooth mouse is... I said it's true because what happened is my tooth fell out. I didn't tell my mom, and I put the tooth in my slipper under the bed.
And somehow
wake up, and there was no money.
Gone.
No, there was no money. There was just the tooth, and I was crying. I was crying, Mom, the mouse, and she's like, no. Sometimes he's busy. He's late with deliveries. Leave it here in my room. And just give him a few minutes and stuff. And then, I don't know, 20 minutes passed, I was eating breakfast. And she's like, a mouse! There's a mouse in my room! Help! And I went, hang on a second, maybe it's the fucking tooth mouse. And I dashed in, and there's $10. Mom! It's a tooth mouse!
$10?
I think so, yeah.
Yes.
10 rand.
My parents listen.
If
my mom is watching this, you owe me 9 rand a tooth.
Was it 1 rand, your folks?
Yes, it's one big old South African, the one with the leaping springbok on it. Now, proper. I mean, it felt like you could kill a man with that money. That felt like a rand was a real thing.
So it's my mom's fantastic dramatic performance that I was like, Father Christmas.
I mean, listen, we saw it in your
tooth mouse, for sure.
I mean, I'm a bit worried about the whole tooth mouse concept. Tooth fairy. Where does tooth mouse come?
No, there was always a mouse in my house. Poetry podcast, a mouse in my house. Oh, but my Afrikaans poem fact.
I heard you read the poem. It was beautiful.
And it's got nothing. So my fact's got nothing to do with Breitenbach's Winternacht. That was just beautiful. But we had a poem in Afrikaans that were called "On a Tamatie Plant." Do you know what that means?
On a tomato plant, right? And I'm not a total
basically.
idiot.
2-1.
About a tomato plant.
Yes.
Yeah, about a tomato plant.
And so the poem was quite interesting describing a tomato plant. But it was basically the crux of the matter, the line that counted. Once again, controversial statement, is it was convincing children not to do drugs.
No, hang on. So you read a totally different poem. I'm getting enraged now, right? Like
Yeah,
you
no, that
read
was
a-
just to
you read
show you
an-
the glory of
yeah.
Afrikaans poetry.
And then you talk to me about some cuck
On a Tamati
cuck
plant.
poem.
Yeah, it was a matric set work in 1996 in Potch Boys.
If I look up on a Tamati plant,
It might be there.
I swear if I don't find it, if it's
Please
like
be there.
if you've made
No,
up a whole poem, this would be a new low for you.
I'm not even.
This would
Do
be
you know
a
how
new
to
low
spell
for
on?
you. Yeah.
No, but don't look at the.
Don't look at the actual words.
Yeah.
No, this thing doesn't even exist.
We studied it in 1996. Mr. Diaga made us.
This is another one of your. There's a ghost at Punch for his eye facts. These things that I just physically, like your English teacher wrote this anti-drug poem, and then you read me Breitenbach and told me his poem was just as good.
Yeah,
Ryan, there is a word that rhymes with duck, and it is so close to the tip of my tongue.
Kom nou, waar is aan 'n Tamatie plant?
Yeah, it doesn't exist,
Well,
right?
no, it does, man.
It doesn't.
No, so I'm sticking with my fact, okay? On a Tamatie plant, the crux of the matter is it's about a tomato plant, but the essence of it is convincing kids not to do drugs.
I've got a poem. I've got a fact about a poem, Ryan. There was an old man from Lund. His wife had a hairy... Do you see where I'm going with this?
I promise you, it was in... Mr. Diaga did it. We wrote matric finals on it.
Uh-huh. Was it one of those? Was it in one of those
I don't know why it's
those
not on the
1980s
internet.
books that the Personality magazine used to release, where it was like, if your child plants, plants themselves outside their garden, or if they paint their room black, or if they have lots of candles, or if they listen to Guns N' Roses, then they're a Satanist. Was it that kind of book that this particular poem came out
He
of?
just gave us the worksheets. I don't know where he got this poem from.
What were those books called? It was somebody's name.
Oh my word.
About the Great Satanic Panic.
Jeez, yes. No, we had there was a little bookstore in Potch, that sold these little booklets and stuff. Ooh, they were hectic.
That's right. I think this particular poem isn't by a Breitenbach or, Ankie Krog or whatever. It's a made-up piece of shite that was submitted to the U magazine that your English teacher cut out. And now I have to know facts about, Ryan. I'm doing badly in this episode. You need to bring me real poems.
Yeah, man. What I say?
It doesn't exist, Ryan. It doesn't exist. It's in your head. It's lunacy. That's what it is.
Well, we're gonna have to go with it.
I'm gonna say it's true. I'm gonna say it's true specifically based on the following: the poem doesn't exist. It doesn't exist, which means that your English teacher wrote it for the specific reason of teaching you not to take drugs.
Mr. Diaga,
Mr. Diaga, sorry, Meneer. Mr. Diaga wrote it specifically to tell you not to take drugs. Bit of a killjoy, Mr. Diaga. How do you think he got through the border war? It wasn't through not taking drugs, I can tell you what.
I've never had to verify my fact before you told me whether it's true or not.
I'm telling you it's a lie. I mean, I'm telling you it's true that such a poem was written during the 80s. It was presented to you in your room by your crazy teacher. It did tell you to not take drugs, but I'm telling you no one else outside of your school has ever heard of this poem. Ever. And I challenge the comment section to prove me wrong.
It's ungoogleable, my gosh.
Yeah, it's ungoogleable, Ryan.
What do I do about this? Okay, well, I'm because judge, jury, and executioner in What's the Fact podcast is the person giving the fact. I'm gonna what's that phrase when you pull rank? I'm gonna pull rank, okay, on this podcast. I'm the judge. It's my question. It's my fact. I'm the judge, jury, and executioner.
It's got to be an actual fact, though,
No,
right? It has to be an actual...
It is on a Tamatie plant is a poem, and an Afrikaans poem, which is not on the freaking internet, which we had to study.
Which is not good for you. But to be fair, Pumpkin Patch has about 3 photos on the internet and nothing else. And Pumpkin Patch definitely exists.
It did exist.
Yeah.
We have to prove that.
I mean, maybe
this is my job as a religious person, is to try and prove that things exist. They really do. Where's the evidence? It's not on the internet. I'm telling you it does. But on a Tamatie plant, it did exist, and I'm still saying that it was about telling kids not to do drugs.
Okay, good, because that's what I said it was about. I mean, obviously it exists. Your English teacher wrote it himself.
Mr.
At home,
Diago.
at home watching Die Man van Staal. He wrote it at home and he brought it to you and he was like, "Listen, Ryan, we're a bit worried about you. The bear raiser, the first sign. We want you to read this poem. It's about not doing drugs."
So you're saying if it's true, it's true.
I already said it was true.
Well, it's I'm being such an arsehole again. I'm so sorry.
No, Ryan, you can't make up stuff and then claim that was a lie.
So it's not about not doing drugs. It's about not having sex.
Ryan, the poem doesn't exist.
It does.
You could
because
say
the line which gives it away is Tamatie plant is so mooi, het groen blare. I don't know what the poem is actually, but then the crux of the matter is, and this is what he said, Mr. Diago mentioned to us toward the end. The crux line before the end is, hou aan 'n bietjie langer bloos. Do you know what that means?
I mean, I know what hou aan 'n bietjie langer doos means.
Comma, doos.
Okay.
Hou aan 'n bietjie langer, comma, doos.
Yeah.
No, hou aan 'n bietjie langer bloos.
I don't know what the word bloos means.
Means blush.
Oh, I see.
So, so he's talking to the tomato, and he's like,
Ryan, this
just
poem
blush.
doesn't exist,
No, it
Ryan.
does, man, I'm
It
telling you.
doesn't exist. Deets, I
Oh,
need you to
come
make a
on,
call on this.
come
This poem doesn't
on.
exist. I need to see actual proof such a poem exists, right? You can't make up poems and then tell me I'm wrong for not knowing them. You know what I mean?
Dietz just said it doesn't exist.
This is an
crazy.
actual fact-based podcast.
Look, a second language Afrikaans examination in the
Right,
Northwest
right.
Province.
If you can't prove the poem exists,
Oh.
you know what I mean? Like it'd be like me coming here and being like, "Listen, there's this little man that visits me in the night, and he's a leprechaun." And then you go, "No, he's not a leprechaun." And I go, "Ha ha, he is a leprechaun." You know what I mean? It's totally meaningless. It's not an actual fact.
Okay,
I just,
fine.
yeah.
Well, ja. Nee, dis nie arbei nie. And
Look, it
how
doesn't-
are
it
you
doesn't
spelling
exist.
Did you have the apostrophe N, or are you putting it like English? A.
No, it's gonna be.
I'm taking the
I mean,
piss
you're
'cause
talking to Dietz.
Dietz
He's
is
actually Afrikaans.
He's gonna
yeah.
move me. Oh,
All right. So there is a
Fuck,
poem at least
man.
called Op Die Tamatie Plan. All right.
do you know it? Do you know the poem, Dietz?
No, he's finding hints and suggestions that a poem called Op Die Tamatie Plan might actually. that's I believe that's on the internet. Yeah. Anyway,
In case you
Ryan,
didn't
listen,
hear
we're
that,
gonna
Dietz says
park
he
this
can't
one.
Find the
We're gonna
poem.
park this one. I hope you get punished as you deserve because that is filth lies. I'm tired of these unique stories. I mean, really,
Please
go
help
back.
me in the comments.
No,
Please,
don't
mense,
help me.
asseblief, ek vra jou ernstig. Asseblief sal julle asseblief julle what's comments in Afrikaans? Kommentaar lewe asseblief in die kommentaar boksie onder.
I will accept if
Aan 'n
enough
Tamatieplant was 'n gedig wat ons geleer het in matriek en
if enough people,
Potch.
Ryan, if enough people come on the comments and say that it was a thing, I will believe it. But like you alone, it's extremely given your history, this podcast particularly of just lying and lying and lying. It's very difficult to believe that this is now the kind of point where the facts are true. You know.